Some of you in the comments have been asking what I am personally invested in. So in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you every single investment that I hold. So I'm going to be sharing with you a couple of different ETFs. I'm also going to be sharing a single stock and then also an investment trust as well. So I bought my first book on investing back in 2012, and since then I have been hooked. But these are the investments that I'm currently holding. I have sold off a lot for various different reasons over time, so let's get stuck into it. On this channel, I predominantly talk about investing in ETFs or exchange traded funds because I believe that they are a very good way to start investing. So the first two investments that I'm going to share with you today are actually ETFs, and the second two investments that I'm going to share with you, I don't think I've actually talked about on this channel at all, so it'll be interesting to share those two. So let's start out with my biggest and most diverse holding, which is the Invesco FTSE All-World ETF. Now I decided to go with the Invesco FTSE All-World ETF because it is cheaper than Vanguard's offering for this ETF, but this is a really diverse investment because when you're making one single investment, you are getting a slice of different stocks and shares from across the whole world. So let's dig into it a little bit. So as I said, it's the Invesco FTSE All-World. The code for it is FWRG. It's an accumulating ETF. Now what an accumulating ETF means is that any dividends are reinvested back into that ETF. If you wanted to be paid out dividends from your ETF, then you'd be looking for an income generating ETF. So the 1 year returns for this ETF are 6.26%, and for 5 year annualized returns, they're not actually available simply because this ETF is fairly new and hasn't been established for 5 years. But if we have a look at Vanguard's VUAG, which is the accumulating FTSE All-World ETF, then their 5 year annualized returns are 14.13. So had this ETF existed for the last 5 years, then I'd be looking for a return around that. Now obviously they are not like for like investments, but I thought it was important to include this information. So the ongoing charge for this ETF is 0.15%, so really nice and low, and that is what I like about ETFs, is that they do have very low ongoing charges because there's very little that you can control with investing, but something that you can control is the fees that you're paying, and those fees do really compound over time. So the number of equity holdings in this ETF at present is 2,404. So as I said, that'll be 2,404 stocks from across the whole world that you are getting a slice of. The top three holdings are Microsoft, Nvidia, and Apple. Now, if you watch my channel a lot, the next ETF and my second biggest holding will come as no surprise. It is the iShares S&P 500 Information Technology Sector ETF. The code for this ETF is IITU. It's an accumulating ETF, so again, those dividends are reinvested. The 1 year returns are 4.88%, and 5 year annualized returns are a whopping 20.43%. So this ETF has done very, very well. In terms of 5 year annualized returns, that simply means that every year on average for the last 5 years, it's achieved 20.43%. Obviously the stock market goes up and down and up and down, so it hasn't made 20.43% every year, but on average it has. The ongoing charge is the same as the ongoing charge for the FTSE All-World at 0.15%, but obviously this doesn't have the diversity that Vanguard FTSE All-World does have. So it only has 70 different holdings within this ETF, and they are obviously all information technology sector holdings. So your top three holdings are Microsoft, Nvidia, and Apple. And if you're watching this video, you might be thinking there's going to be a huge amount of crossover between these two ETFs, and you'd be right. Now, personally, I am not against having a crossover with ETFs. I personally wanted my portfolio to be more tech heavy. I wanted to add more tech and a higher proportion of those tech stocks into my portfolio. But if you don't want to do that and you want to make sure that you have ETFs that have completely separate holdings, then potentially holding these two together would not be right for you. Right, now the next two investments I don't think I've talked about on this channel, and they are much more obscure, much less beginner friendly, and they might come as a surprise to some of you that have been watching this channel for a long time. But what I tried to do when I made these investments was to add some diversity to my portfolio. And the way that I've done that with this next investment is by investing in a trust that predominantly invests in unquoted companies. So that simply means that they are not traded on a public stock exchange. So I couldn't buy individual shares in these companies. So this trust is actually called the HG Capital Trust. The code for it is HGT. This is not an ETF, so it is not tracking a market. It is also a much more risky investment to be making, and certainly not one that I would suggest making as a beginner. The 1-year returns are just 1.10%, but the 5-year annualized returns are strong at 17.14%. However, the ongoing charge is 1.40%, and this has really made me question whether I should continue to hold on to this investment. Now, I have held it for a number of years, so I have seen those really strong returns, but it does kind of go against my ethos of making low-cost investments, but then it does provide me with some more diversity in my portfolio because I simply couldn't invest in these investments myself. So the number of holdings they have in their portfolio is currently 56. And as I said, these are unquoted companies not available on a stock exchange. So they are predominantly software companies. I do like my tech. I think it's really important to reiterate now that when I'm sharing this portfolio with you, I am not saying go ahead and invest in these. Certainly not. I think that investing in something like a FTSE All-World is a fantastic way to start investing because you're getting a broad, diverse portfolio with very low costs and fees. I would question whether this would be a good investment for a beginner. And I'm questioning whether it's a good investment for me, to be honest, as well. But I am currently holding it, so I needed to share it in this video. And then finally, on to my last investment. I saw a comment in one of my videos saying, am I invested in any individual stocks and shares? And if you were to go back into my videos and the history, you'd find some awful videos where I'm even more awkward than I am now. But you would see that I did used to invest in individual stocks and shares, but I made the decision to move my portfolio predominantly over to ETFs. And I feel that that's the right decision for me. However, I do still have one stock investment, and that's actually in Monzo. So I bought shares in Monzo back in 2018. I was actually in a garden centre when I bought them, but it was through crowdfunding. So I bought those Monzo shares back then at a value of £7.71. Now they are definitely worth £14.41. That was confirmed, and there is talk of them being worth around £19 each now. So their most recent financial report showed that their revenue had exceeded £1 billion for the first time. They are looking at maybe IPOing in 2026, rumour has it. So we'll see how much these shares are worth then. But as I said, I bought them back in 2018, and it'll be interesting to see what they are worth. So yes, at present they are currently worth almost double what they were when I bought them back in 2018, and we'll see how that goes. Now, I personally do really enjoy investing in single individual stocks and shares and doing research around that. But I think I've read so much to say that generally you're better to investing in an ETF. It's very difficult to beat the market. So at present, I'm probably going to be sticking with just having this single stock, which I can't actually sell anyway, in my portfolio, and having the vast majority of my portfolio, over 90%, is in ETFs, and I feel confident and comfortable with that decision for now. Do let me know in the comments down below what you think of this investment portfolio. Do you have any of the same investments that I do? Did you invest in Monzo back in 2018, or did you invest in the round before that? If so, well done, excellent work. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. It was really great to be back here doing a video. If you fancy subscribing, I meant to say thank you so very much for 10,000 subscribers. I am absolutely thrilled with that. I really appreciate each and every one of you for subscribing and watching my content. And sorry, I've been gone for a little while. Life has just been very busy. But thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and have a really lovely day. Bye bye.